People out there talk about trauma. It's like they say it's about a memory that needs to be digested. I don't agree with that. It's about how your body gets stuck in being frozen or in heartache and gut-wrenching feelings. And you need to really reclaim your body is a very central issue of overcoming trauma. Emotions are about physical sensations. So you feel joy in your chest. You feel joy in your movement. When your heart is broken, you feel it over here. When your gut is wrenched, you feel it over here. So emotions are really about physical sensations. Trauma is about having unbearable physical sensations. So you can go to your psychologist and yak about what has happened to you. But the core issue is not what happened to you, but the fact that your body got stuck in heartbreak and gut wrench. And so somehow you need to be helped to learn to re-own your body. We did a study on the immune system and trauma and saw that basically when people get traumatized, their immune system starts overreacting and starts attacking themselves. And I think that was a very good metaphor for people's bodies getting stuck in a state of terror. I was raised in the mainstream culture where if you feel bad, you take something to make that feeling go away. What we found is that it didn't work very well. Our conventional way of thinking about it is not working. I thought, okay, if it doesn't work, let's see what else can work. My name is Bessel Kolk. I am a physician, I'm a psychiatrist. I have been studying trauma for about 50 years now. The nature of trauma is that something happens to you, your survival brain makes the first interpretation and says, is this dangerous or is this safe? So it's very important to really be aware that these reactions emanate from your body. And so the big challenge of treating trauma is how do we help people to live in bodies that feel fundamentally safe? What was very clear is that very good psychotherapy was actually quite helpful. Not to fix people, but helping people to acknowledge like, oh my God, that was terrible what happened to me. And I need to take care of the wounds that I'm carrying inside of myself. This issue of self-compassion and really knowing that your reactions are understandable is a terribly important part of beginning to recover from trauma. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
There are a few therapies that work especially well, and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR, is one. EMDR is an evidence-based treatment, which means it's been proven to be effective more often than most other types of therapy. During EMDR, a trained therapist works with a person to keep the sessions comfortable and relaxed, but also to achieve the goals they set together. Relaxation and breathing exercises might be taught early in the sessions, so they can be used later. People then talk about the memories that have been most difficult for them. While they're telling the stories of their trauma, they're also watching something right in front of them, such as moving lights or the tip of a pencil being waved back and forth. The repetitive eye movement can be distracting or calming, and telling the story becomes easier. This is desensitization. Next, the feelings that go with the memories of awful, traumatic moments or years of traumatic moments can change. Those feelings shift during therapy, and how people think about themselves in relation to their memories can be dramatically different following EMDR. This is reprocessing. The memories start to have far less power than they did before the treatment. The best news is that EMDR usually doesn't take that long. The feeling that a person is stuck in the past can change with EMDR. People with PTSD can become fully present and live their lives the way they intend.
And then we studied yoga. Maybe if you do yoga, you can open up your relationship to your body. You learn how to breathe calmly. You learn to pay attention to yourself. You get to see how different movements and different postures affect you. And so you form a deep relationship to your internal sensory system. Yoga at the end was a more effective treatment for PTSD than any of the drugs we had studied. So I've explored many different methods of dealing with trauma. I found that yoga has had the best reception. When you're a traumatized person, it feels like nothing will ever change. When you do yoga, you notice you can put yourself in some damn uncomfortable pose, and before too long it's going to be over. And you get that sense of time, which is a very important thing in helping to overcome trauma, because sucky things happen to people all the time. And the way you move through life, you say, okay, today it sucks, but tomorrow is another day. So you have this sense of time that allows you to have that perspective. When you get traumatized, that perspective of this too shall pass disappears. And so reestablishing that sense of time, which yoga does so well, is another very important part of what yoga can do for people. Yoga really helps people to really contain themselves and to safely experience their bodies. It makes it possible for people to feel things that they may be very afraid to feel. And so that was really much of my attraction to yoga, is the understanding that when you get traumatized, you don't really want to feel what you feel and know what you know. And that really is part of it's very at the core of the problem. And then how yoga really makes it safe for you to experience yourself, even though what you experience may not be all that great. And one thing I particularly like about good yoga teachers, for example, you'll say, hold this pose for 5 breaths. And the first breath you say, I'm not going to do this, or you say, I'll try it one time. And then you know that everything is going to come to an end. And this very, very nice contained way that yoga allows you to do things that you ordinarily wouldn't want to do or dare to do. You say, no, just try it for a few breaths. And then it comes to an end, you say, wow, I did it. And those are the sort of elements about yoga that I deeply appreciate. And so what we do in the weekend workshops is we give people an introduction to how you might safely experience yourself. But for some people that can be quite frightening, to actually be asked to breathe and to notice what comes up when you just sit on your butt and to breathe. So very simple things sometimes prove to be quite challenging. What's also important to know is, like, our research showed that a steady yoga practice for a traumatized person is more effective than any medication that anybody has studied. It doesn't mean that you should not be taking medications, but overall, statistically speaking, yoga in the long range has more beneficial effects than medications. But that doesn't mean that doing yoga is going to make you immediately feel better. What we find actually is that when people start doing yoga, starting to feel your body may bring up feelings of helplessness, terror, etc., etc. So part of what yoga can do for you, and having a good yoga teacher, is to help you, to give you the courage to begin to face your sensations. The next thing that we studied was theater and movement. And it turns out that playing different roles in your body helps you to feel that your body can feel differently depending on how you organize your relationship to yourself. I live in the Berkshires, and we have a great program here called Shakespeare in the Courts, where if you're a juvenile delinquent in this county, you have a 50% chance that the judge will condemn you to become a Shakespearean actor. That's civilization. Huh? The Shakespeare program is enormously helpful because it helps people to feel their bodies and to feel what it feels like to be a king, and it feels like to be a warrior. And you get to really have a deep experience of yourself in different possibilities. The next piece that I studied is that you can actually put electrodes on your skull so that when you make brainwaves that help you to be calm and focused, you get a little reward. We did very well with neurofeedback, so we can shape your brain to actually have a different configuration to be open to new experiences.